Ladies and gentlemen, today is May 3rd, 2016, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 291, where we learn to be a better artist. My name is Keenan Lafferty, and 291, that's a hard one to say. That is a lot of episodes, and we are doing it today. Today we are going to be talking about constructing bodies, but it is part two of a series, so if you're interested in going back to part one, where we discussed female bodies, I know you want to check that out. Just click on this picture right there. It'll take you back a week. We'll talk about that. But today we're talking about male bodies. We're talking about muscles, right? And of course, I'm going to be referencing my awesome manly body for today's show. But before we get into that, actually, I wish I could reference my own body. I do have an announcement to make. Hey, look at that. It is 21 Days of Overwatch. It comes out on the 25th, I believe. And DeviantArt and Blizzard are doing this really awesome thing online where they contacted a bunch of artists to do all of the champions. And hey, look at this. Day 3, awesome. Larry Yen, Kate Fox, Ross Straws, and oh, hey, wait a minute. Who's on day 6 there? That's kind of weird. Huh. You guys should go check that out for yourselves. The link is in the description, or you can just find it on DeviantArt, I'm sure. Now, before we actually get into today's show, we need to take a stroll up the lovely lane because you guys have been being awesome and submitting your beautiful art. So if you'd like to go check out all these for yourself, just type in that tiny URL /KNKL Fun Art. KNKL Fun Art, yes. Go check out all these for yourself. Oh, I always like to end it right before it gets right there. And yeah, that could be your art right there. That could be your art right there. So yeah, go like the page, submit your art, and you guys will have some fun with that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's show because we've got a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and head on over to D-Desktop, and we got to zoom out a little bit so we can actually see everything. And let's go ahead and get started because we're talking about male bodies. And we're focusing on this today, this thing right here. And we're going to go ahead and duplicate this, and we're going to discuss the differences. And hey, you know what would look really good is if we mirrored that. So let's go ahead and mirror it. Let's talk about differences. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to erase this entire body. Because we don't need that, obviously. We don't need that. But we are going to start with our head shape, okay? Now for guys' heads, very similar to what I did last week with the almond shape. However, this one's going to have a little bit more of a squared off jaw, just to make it a little bit more angular. And that is going to be a recurring theme today, our angular things, angular shapes, angular types of things, right, for our male bodies, okay? So the first thing that you want to do is construct that head. Now, just reiterating what we are constructing this out of is it is a sphere and a chin shape, right? And if you guys are curious about that, that's 2 weeks ago where we talked about the differences of male and female heads, or just constructing heads in general, right? But today we're talking about this. So let's go ahead and get to that. Okay, so the same thing with our measurements here, right? Each of these represents a head line, or rather a head, right? So one head down is going to be our chest area. Okay, so right around this area is where we're going to want to think about our torso happening, right? And then we're going to draw on our arms and shoulders and all that stuff. But we're going to get to that in just a moment. Let's go ahead and get rid of these ugly lines because we don't want those. And let's begin drawing. Okay, so yeah, one line down. That's going to be our chest, okay? But before you get to that, I want you guys to be thinking even simpler than that, even simpler. Remember how we talked about the female body having that nice hourglass shape, right? You want to think about hourglasses. Well, the male body does have a bit of an hourglass shape too. It's just not quite as exaggerated in the hips, right? You want to think about the male body having wider shoulders and then coming down to a skinnier waist, okay? So it's going to be more like this type of hourglass shape, right? So it's going to be something more like this. Think of it as a fancy drink glass, right? Where you put like I don't know if you put like an olive in that or something, but actually maybe that's the wrong one. But a fancy drink glass is what a man's body is made into, okay? So let's go ahead and keep that. We'll keep the olive there just for good measure, okay? So fancy drink glass. But now the most important part. Do you remember how we talked about, hey, how do I actually connect those legs? Well, a good way to think about it is with that bathing suit technique, right? Bathing suit technique, because it allows us to think about it. You want to think about your assembling an action figure piece by piece, and now we're going to hook the legs into there. But because guys have a little bit more volume in the crotchal region, we want that shape to be slightly different, okay? So it's gonna come down and it's gonna come to more of like a box type shape, right? And then it's gonna come up, okay? And this is going to give us room to like, say, put in our obliques, right? It's gonna give us room to put in our obliques and then eventually like the six pack and the serratus anterior and all that stuff. But we're gonna get to that in just a moment. We'll get to that in just a moment. Because, yes, okay. Because we need to focus on this. Okay, so yeah, a little bit extra volume there, okay? Give your guys some breathing room. It's very important. Okay, then off of that, we're gonna go ahead and draw those legs. And for those of you who tuned in last week, you know exactly how we're gonna draw those legs with that good old S curve, right? We're gonna create those S curves. It is going to give us weight, it's gonna give us balance, it's gonna look awesome, it's gonna look beautiful, well, handsome, I guess. It's gonna be a handsome figure, right? And then notice how I'm trying to sneak one by you already. I'm sorry. But notice how I am kind of popping out the knee right here. And then if you want to show off the muscle of the leg, you want to bring it up like this. You want to go from the knee up to here and then have a nice little bump that goes right there. That's going to be your quads that are going to stick out a little bit, right? It's going to be your quads that are sticking out. And there's all kinds of other little muscles that go in here. We're not worrying so much about that today. Today we're focusing on sneezing and hitting the sneeze button so that way I don't record it. But we're focusing on general shapes, right? We're focusing on globs rather than full musculature. I think I'm going to save those for the next coming weeks because I know you guys love to draw muscles, but there's a proper way to do them, and that deserves a whole show in itself, okay? But for now, we're just talking about those shapes, okay? So create your, you'll notice that I've made the knee sort of like a diamond shape. Why did I do that? I don't know. It's just kind of a force of habit. But yeah, it just kind of looks like that. And then don't forget, right? This muscle right here, this line comes down and then it bends out. It bends out to create that calf muscle, okay? Don't forget it. Don't forget it, people, okay? It's very important. Okay, and then on this side, right, the other calf muscle is going to poke out just a little bit, but you can still accentuate this line because we discovered last week that that line is your knee connecting to your shin bone going down to your ankle, okay? Oh man, look at that. You can totally see a hole in my sock. I need to get some new ones. That's not good. So yeah, totally just hope you enjoyed that. So let's go ahead and get into this. Let's get into drawing this man's feet with holes in the socks. Hopefully not. We can draw him with actual proper socks, right? Because he knows when to go to Target and get new ones, so that way they don't have holes in them. And he knows to walk around not... I'm always moonwalking in the kitchen, and it's like really easy to do it in socks, so that's why I develop holes in them really quickly. But anyway, okay, so continuing. S-curve, people. S-curve down. Okay, that's a little exaggerated, but something more like that. That looks good. Remember, it's replicating itself. One S-curve there, the other S-curve is replicating, not mirroring. Don't mirror your S-curve and make your legs look like this, okay? They don't do that, okay? So S-curve is going to replicate itself. So let's go ahead and draw that down. And then that S-curve is going to go like that. Beautiful. Look at that. See, super simple leg. Super simple leg. And do you see how that line just goes right through it as opposed to being like this straight, like when I tried to draw, like when I was learning more art, I always tried to draw legs like this. And I was like, okay, well, here's this. There's like the knee. And then here's the foot, right? And see how this is just like a straight line? It's like so not right. It is not right because nature would not develop a leg that looks like that to support hundreds of pounds of weight. Well, depending on the size of yourself, right? Hundreds of pounds of weight. If you're a massive bodybuilder or skinny little twerp like me, hundreds of pounds of weight to like 50 pounds of weight on your upper body. Yeah, straight legs are not going to work very well for that. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're having those curves in there, people. Get those curves in there. Then for the foot, we learned that the pivot point is actually in the ankle, not in the heel. I'm going to draw a little hoof down like this. Draw the toes off like that. And then go ahead and throw in your heel. Beautiful. Beautiful feet. Love it. All right, see, look at that. Some nice legs, nice looking legs. And all we did was we considered globs. We were thinking about globs, not stick figures. Notice how we're not doing this type of thing today. We're not saying, okay, all right, guys, we're going to draw human anatomy. We're going to draw human anatomy. All right, so you want to start with a head, right? And then you want to draw a line down, and here's the neck. And then the shoulders kind of connect like right around here. And then, yeah, we go down like this. And here's like the shape of the body. And then the legs go down like that, like that. Like, this is so good. Like, I always love it when I open up drawing books and they teach you how to draw stuff like this. It is like the most horrendous thing, and it makes me want to burn the book. Like, if I had laser vision, I would literally burn it with my eyes right there, because this literally ticks me off, because it is teaching people not only something that doesn't work, it's the wrong way, and it is totally a step backwards, and it makes things harder than it should ever be. And yeah, that's just not okay. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. Get rid of that forever. Don't ever, if you open an art book and it has anything having to do with drawing with stick figures, just throw it away. Just toss it away, as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, get away from that. Get as far away from that as humanly possible, because that is not a good drawing book. Okay, so buy my drawing book, right? If I had one, you should buy mine, because I would teach you how to draw with this. Or you can just continue watching the videos for free on YouTube. But that's okay. That's okay, because you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome, and I love doing this for you. Okay, so there you go. Legs. Notice the differences, right? Notice the differences between the male and female legs. Not too big of a difference. Not too big of a difference. But do you notice, probably the biggest thing that I can point out is that the female hips, because the hips are, like, the ratio is about the same, like from here to here, as the shoulders, you're going to tend to have a bit wider. Also, girls don't need as much breathing room in the crotchal region, right? So the hips and the thighs are going to tend to be slightly larger. You're going to be slightly thicker than down by the calves, right? Whereas with guys, you'll have a more uniform, it's more of a uniform thickness. You'll have thicker thighs and then nice thick calf muscles too. And of course, this goes all kinds of different ways. This is just a general idea. I know not everybody has the same body. Not everybody has a superhero body like this, right? I look in the mirror and I see this every day, but I know that everybody else is not fortunate enough to see that. That sounds so bad. But you guys know that I'm joking. You guys absolutely know that I'm joking. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and get back to this. Let's get to the shoulders. Let's get to the shoulders and the arms. Okay, because we know now that the chest comes down like this. And the way that I like to draw the chest and the arms is sort of like this. I like to think about from the shoulders, right? Anyone can draw a circle that creates the shoulder. And then you're going to draw over like this. You're going to create the collarbone. It's going to go like that, and it's going to go up towards the neck. And then notice how I did this type of thing. I'm thinking about two different shapes whenever I create the neck. One is the cylinder that's going down like this, but then a lot of people forget about the trapezius muscle, right? And that is the muscle that's going to connect from your neck down to your shoulder. That's this thing right here. So don't forget about that trapezius muscle, because it's really going to create less of like, hey, here's the head and then the neck, and then it goes out to the shoulders. Most of the time your neck is going to come down like this and then begin almost immediately going to the side. And then your collarbones are going to go in like this, and then you'll have your nice awesome shoulders out like that. So yeah, but always think about those two shapes, neck and trapezius muscles. I'll help you out a lot. Make your male bodies look a lot cooler. Much, much cooler. All right, guys, so let me teach you a really cool trick for creating the ab muscles, right? Because abs are so hard. Abs are so hard, and I'm still struggling with them to this day, but hey, hopefully this can help you out a little bit. I developed a bit of a technique that I think can help you. Because how do we all draw abs, right? How do we all draw abs when we're learning? We'll be like, okay, well, let's draw this. And let's make this guy really muscly. So we got to have this and then that. Yeah. There we go. Now he has like a six-pack, and now he's really strong, right? But this is not how muscles work. This is not how you draw muscles. Rather, what you want to be thinking about is because the muscles are under there, yes. The muscles are going to look like this. If you were to rip off all of his skin and look at it underneath, yeah, the muscles are going to be divided in between there, but there's skin being stretched over those things. So really what you want to think about, I found that helps, is you want to think about the torso being divided into two sides, right? And it starts up here with the collarbone, and it goes down, right? It goes down, and it creates the chest muscles, right? But what's interesting is everybody is familiar with chest muscles and be like, oh yeah, I can tell that those are two, large manly pecs coming together. But here's what a lot of people forget, is that that line also continues down. It continues down towards the belly button, okay? And when you do this, this allows you to go in there, and now you can start putting in subtle details like this. Okay, so here is my technique for drawing abs, okay? It's almost like a Christmas tree effect. So I do one of these, and then I do one of these, and then I go down like that, okay? So 1, 2, like that. And then what this does is it sort of creates the exact shape that you're gonna want for your abs, okay? Now the reason why this works is because this muscle right here, this shape right here, is actually your obliques. It's your obliques that are going down towards your legs, okay? And that's gonna sort of create that little bit of that shape in your abs, okay? And then what I like to do is I like to begin separating them, okay? And very, very subtly, right, like this, we will create our abs, okay? Very, very subtly. And then what I like to do is I like to erase a lot of these lines, because a lot of these lines are just not needed. A lot of these lines are not needed here. In fact, let's see, am I actually doing this right? See, abs are so hard for me. Abs are so freaking hard. So I would do them like, yeah, like that. And then what's interesting is that this right here, this shape right here that comes in and connects here, this begins to be your serratus anterior. So these are muscles that go up like this, and then they go back like this. I'm sure you have seen these all the time. So they go up, and then they connect back. And they go back, and then it eventually overlaps your lats, or your lats overlap it. And that's the giant muscle that connects from your shoulder all the way down to your back. But we're not focusing on that today, right? We're just focusing on simple things to remember, okay? So this will give you a good start. I would highly recommend looking at a photo reference for exactly how the abs are placed, because I can already tell that these are a little bit out of whack. So yeah. But also using that photo reference really helps with not overdoing it, not overdoing the the actual muscles, because it's too easy to want to go in there and literally carve out each of these muscles, right? Each of these six-pack muscles, and then it just looks really weird. So don't do that. Don't do that. Okay? Take it from me. Alrighty, people. So that's a good start. That's a good start. But we're not here to learn about crazy muscle groups. We got to finish up with the arms, and then we got to finish up today. Okay? But this is a good start. This is a good start. Oh, the other thing that's really nice to think about is that this line right here, this actually represents the rib cage. This represents the rib cage. So it's like this shape right here, and it connects down to our other shape here. And don't be afraid to have this kind of stick off a little bit. Don't be afraid to have these muscles kind of stick out a little bit, right? Just because those obliques are quite manly. Quite manly. Okay, so they can actually come off of the, you can actually have a bit more of this type of shape going on, where that muscle meets and then it kind of comes out a little bit. So there you go. Depending on how fit your male is. Depending on how incredible your male is, actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to this. Let's go ahead and get to this. Let's talk about the arms. Okay, guys, so here's a really easy way to remember how to draw arms from here on out, okay? So you're going to want to create a slight almond shape, okay? Now, a lot of people would have you believe that shoulders, right? Your shoulder muscle actually connects straight to the side of your arm. So let's say we drew a line, right? I'm going to go ahead and highlight this. So let's say we had this teardrop shape, and we're drawing the shoulder muscle. A lot of people would have you believe that if you draw a line straight to the side, like this is exactly, like imagine he's like a toy figurine, once again, this is the seam line going directly to the side of his body. That's where the shoulder muscle connects, right? And then from there, you can draw down your tricep, bicep, and then you can start adding in the rest of your arm, right? But here's what I found out. here's what I've actually found out, is that the shoulder muscle actually tends to curl a little bit more, ever so slightly towards the front of your body. Curls ever so slightly towards the front. So that's why, if you look at this original shape, do you see how this point is coming down just a little bit more towards the front, right? If we drew it straight down, see how that's a little bit more tending toward the front? So let's go ahead and continue with that. Let's continue with that. Here we go. Okay, so we got that. And then off of this shape right here, we are then going to add in this shape, which is going to be our bicep, okay? And then the bicep is going to connect right here. Think of it as just like locking in right there, right onto that shoulder muscle, okay? And then off of that, we will have our tricep. Now keep in mind, the tricep exists in this space right here. The tricep is not a huge muscle, or it is a huge muscle, but a lot of it from this angle is being obscured. So actually what you're gonna see is just this little bump that's gonna come down, and then it's gonna meet up with your elbow. Your elbow is gonna be right there, okay? So now what's gonna happen is there's a muscle that comes right out from the middle of this. So say there's like a center line that goes up and connects to your shoulder muscle. There's a little muscle that comes out right here, and it's called your carpi. And if you do this, you can see it right here. Do you see that muscle that is overlapping my bicep as it comes down? That is called your carpi, along with all your other little all your other little forearm muscles. And that's what we're going to draw here. So we want to draw your arm coming off like this, right? And then the hand comes down, and these muscles are going to tend to go towards. Here's a really awesome way to remember that. The forearm muscles always tend to wrap around. They wrap around like a candy cane, okay? They wrap around like a candy cane. And why do they do that? Because they are connecting to your thumb. You want to think about your the muscles always tending towards your thumb. Wherever the thumb is, those muscles are all going to go towards that direction on your forearm, okay? Let's go ahead and draw in a quick hand there. Oh yeah, look at that arm. That looks like a sick arm. Look at that. Love it. All right, let's go ahead and just have his simple hand like that, right? We're not too worried about hands right now. Okay, so you might look at this and say, well, isn't that nice? I've learned how to draw muscles today, but this is not how. I want to wrap up with this, okay? Similar to what we did with our abs, we're not trying to make it overly, we don't want those lines to be super crazy defined like that, because nobody's skin is vacuum sealed to their arms like that. Not necessarily, right? So unless you're like bodybuilding and you've like been starving yourself and you do that whole like, I don't even know how they do that, right? Unless you're literally drawing a bodybuilder, your skin is not going to be vacuum sealed to your skin. Okay, so let's figure out a way to show those muscles, but also have it so that way they look natural. Okay, so here's a good general idea for that. So any lines that are facing directly towards you, so let's say like, hey, this line is facing towards me, these lines are kind of facing towards me. All these things like in the middle of the arm, right? All the things towards the middle of the skin, we're going to begin erasing those. We're going to go ahead and begin removing them slowly. Whereas lines that represent edges, like say this line right here, and a little bit of this line, and this line. Anything that represents an edge, right? We're going to make sure that we show a little bit more, okay? So let's go ahead and put that into practice. I know that might have been a little bit confusing. Don't worry, I confused myself too. Let's go ahead and put that into practice. Okay, so the lines that are edges, we're gonna leave. So that is lines like this. However, lines in the middle, let's go ahead and start erasing those a little bit. Let's get rid of those. Let's get rid of those ones. Line on the edge, right? This edge of the carpi muscle. Let's go ahead and leave that. Leave that, right? We can have a little bit of a line right here. Tiny little bit of a line right there. But really what I want you guys to do is focus on creating those lines that represent edges, okay? Get rid of all this stuff. Get rid of all this. There's a little bit of a divot that happens right here. That's another good chance for us to put in a line there, right, representing the overlap and the edge. Okay, you can have a little bit of an edge right there, showing like that. So do you see how now we took those muscles? We took those muscles over here, right? And then we made them a little bit more subtle, yet now it feels like there's actually skin stretched across it, okay? And that has to do with accentuating the lines that represent your edges, okay? Also, before we go, let me show you a really cool trick for connecting your shoulder to your pec muscles, because I struggle with this all the time. And it's like, how the heck do I connect this line, okay? Well, I can kind of do this, and yeah, it's kind of connected, but how do I know how to make it look proper? And here's a really cool thing that you can do with that, okay? So when we go into the actual like study of, I guess, a little bit more detail on the muscles in the coming weeks, till then, just keep in mind that the shoulder muscle is kind of divided into 3 parts. So you kind of have this type of shape going on. So you have this type of shape going on. So you have like a 1, a 2, and a 3. Okay? And then from there, to connect it to your pec, here's an interesting thing that happens. Is it's almost like that fan continues. It continues like this, right? And then do you see how that wraps right on back? There's almost like this pattern that's happening. There's a pattern that's happening, and it fans like that. And it's connecting, right? This is your collarbone, and all those muscles are connecting to your, not only your sternum, right, which is that bone right in the center. You can feel it here. It's connecting to your sternum, but also it's connecting to your collarbone up here. In fact, if you move your arm around in different places, you can feel your pec muscle actually connecting up there and kind of flexing. So that's a really good way to remember how to connect your shoulders to your pec muscles, okay? But let's go ahead and put that into practice, because obviously you're not gonna be drawing all those lines. Oh, actually, let me leave those because they're actually really handy. But obviously you're not gonna be drawing all those lines. We wanna make sure that they're subtle. Subtle lines. See, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. So we're actually just gonna create, actually, we basically already created it. So we're gonna create that line, and then this line, or this collarbone, is actually going to meet right there with the shoulder, okay? So you're basically gonna have something like this. And then you can kind of like, if you really wanna accentuate this muscle, sometimes you can do one of those. Like you can create a little bit of like a kind of a ripple in the chest there. But again, that is like super, like this guy is like super buff if you can see one of those types of things. Okay, but that's just a good general reminder of how the shoulders connect to the pecs. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Yes, very good, very good. Yeah, and then overall, yeah, probably the biggest thing that I could tell you guys today is with your muscles, always remember, like, see these lines right in here? See how they're facing directly at us? Just erasing those, erasing those. And yet the line that represents the edge, right, that's turning away from us, like we've accentuated that. We have accentuated that muscle, okay? So you get something a little bit more like that. So I hope that helps you guys out with your male bodies a little bit more. Oh, also another cool little thing, tried to sneak one by you. This little triangle that happens right here, that represents the edge of that shoulder muscle meeting with your chest muscle, right? So you can draw in that little triangle there. I just put it in as a little bit of shading. But it always looks really nice, and it helps to connect the two muscle groups to one another. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, so I hope that helps you guys out. I hope that helps you guys out with your male bodies. But before we go, we do have a very special thing to do, and that is, of course, the question catapults. All right, let's get to it, ladies and gentlemen. So the question coming in from Alpha Gusta. Alpha Gusta's got a good question here. Let's see if I can actually enlarge it so I can read it. There we go. All right. Alpha Gusta asks, hi, I've noticed that on your videos you have a lot of printed work in the background on your wall, and I was wondering if you would mind giving some tips on what types of prints and how big you should make them. Kind of want to do the same thing on pinboard, but I have no idea what to do. Great question, Alpha Gusta, and this will help in a couple of ways because, yes, the prints on my wall, they range in various different sizes and colors and all that stuff. And the place that I actually got a lot of these done was at my local UPS store. A lot of UPS stores have cool printing places, or like a printing shop connected to it. At least here in Utah they do. And their prices are actually really competitive, so I go there to get them done. But what you want to ask for is these ones right here of Emma. These ones are done on 12 by 18. These are done by 12 by 18. But what's interesting is they are what's called a bleed, and that is when the print goes all the way to the edge of the piece. And in order to get that done, you have to actually have it printed on a larger piece of paper. So say if you want it to be a 12 by 18, you actually have to print it on a 13 by 19 and then cut off the edges. That's how you create a bleed. So, but yeah, they're done on, if you're curious what type of paper that they're done on, I think it's called a Tango 14 point. 14 point is the weight of it. So Tango is the brand. That doesn't necessarily matter. But if you go in and ask for a 14 point gloss printing paper, that will basically get you the same result as these ones. A lot of these other ones are very similar. They're printed on a cardstock too. But I like to get them done on at least like a 14 point because too thin, it's kind of wobbly, right? 14 point has a little bit more body to it, feels a little bit more sturdy, and it works really well on the wall. So I highly suggest you do that for yourself, Alpha Gusta. And for anybody who's creating prints or going to cons, that's a good little piece of advice, good little tidbit for you. Alrighty, before we take off, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you to my sponsors. Laura Bashir, Cody Turner, Captain Big Butt, and David Chiariello. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the show. I got a bunch of new sponsors. I'm going to be finishing up their avatars as well. Really excited to have them on the show. And of course, sponsors past. Thank you guys for sponsoring the show. Would not be the same without you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and end today's show. So thank you for joining me once again for another tutorial. Hope this helped you guys out. Want to see all those awesome bodies out there? Oh, before we go, if you want to get today's PSD, you want to take a look at this for yourself, then just go ahead and click on this picture right here. It'll take you over to the Patreon. You can support the show, get not only today's PSD, but all the other PSDs from the past. And yeah, go have a good time with that. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you don't. My name is Ken Lafferty. I'll see you guys next week. And until then, you guys take care. See ya.